Hello and welcome to another Smash Bros. Moveset Showcase. For this video, I wanted to take one final look at the customizable smashing wonders, the Mii Fighters. I've already done 2 videos looking into how these fighters could be expanded with 6 new classes, including Mii Athlete, a versatile take on the sword fighter representing Wii Sports, Mii Musician, a tempo-based instrumentalist representing Wii Music and rhythm games, Mii Racer, a cart-bound fighter pulling from Mario Kart, Mii Mage, wielding powerful magic and being one of the most requested new Mii fighters, Mii Ninja, a sword fighter variant built around speed and surprise, and Mii Chef, using timing and status effects to represent cooking games. When you break them down, each of these new classes kind of falls into a subcategory of one of the main 3, which is how I'll be expanding upon these potential new classes. And as this is the last video I intend to do for the Mii Fighters, I have 8 new classes I'd like to talk about. Some of which I've brought up before, some of which have been requested, and some of which I just happened to come up with along the way. First, I'd like to take a look at the 2 classes I mentioned in my last video on the topic. At the time, I didn't feel these 2 had enough personality to be interesting on the roster, but wound up fleshing them out anyway. The first of those classes was... Mii Heavy is a fairly popular and requested pick for a new Mii Fighter class, but one I'm still not entirely crazy about, hence going first in the list. However, as I've stated previously, I do think a Mii Fighter with extremely polarized stats compared to the others could be interesting. So the Mii Heavy leaning into a slow but strong archetype with a big deadly hammer does have its merits. Along with this, the Heavy would probably be one of the easier Miis to implement, with plenty of inspiration to pull from already on the roster. It's a straightforward concept with a straightforward moveset, built around simple hammer strikes and some varied specials to mix things up. Beyond weight and strength, the Heavy doesn't have anything too revolutionary in the normals. Jab, tilts, aerials, and throws are all basic swings, jabs, and spins of the hammer. The only real change here is the dash attack, which is a running knee strike. The smash attacks are generally the same, but with more power and coverage. An incredibly strong downward slam for F smash, an overhead swing for up smash that turns the Mii around and slams the hammer down to the other side, and a spin striking both sides twice for down smash. For specials, Neutral B has Grand Slam, your strongest move with the Falcon Punch like hammer swing, Keep Swinging, tapping B to continuously slam the hammer down and move like the hammer item but slowing with each strike, and Fire Strike, launching a wave of fire with the swing of the hammer similar to Terry's Power Wave or Reinhardt from Overwatch. Side B has Ground Shatter, slamming the ground causing it to break and shoot up as spikes for a short distance in front of it, Hammer Throw, tossing the hammer with deadly power but requiring you to go pick it up or wait for it to respawn. Others can pick it up as well but would have to carry it like a heavy crate, and you'll have weak punches if you lose it. And Rocket Rush, similar to Ike's Side B. Up B has Hammer Tornado, similar to DK's Up B, Bell Ringer, jumping up and coming down fast with a ton of power, and Rocket Lift, with twin rockets coming out of either side of the hammer, propelling you upwards with short distance controlled flight. And down B has Shockwave, smashing the ground and stunning enemies nearby, Planter, a quick swing that buries, and Cyclone, spinning the hammer so fast it causes a stream of wind that pushes foes. And for Mii Heavy's final smash, you have World Crusher, bringing the hammer down onto the stage, causing huge eruptions and reverberations that destroy enemies with multiple waves. Besides the Mii Mage, the Mii Heavy is probably the next most likely addition to the Mii Fighters. While I don't think the Heavy is an incredibly unique idea, I do think there's a lot of fun to be had with the concept. And for the other previously mentioned Mii Fighter, we have... Revisiting the Mii Archer is more or less the reason I came back to the Heavy. I started thinking of some fun potential moves, and as I kept going, I figured, well, I should probably try the Heavy too. To me though, the Mii Archer presents a more interesting new class for the Mii Fighters, as it's the primary weapon we haven't seen on the Smash roster. Sure, there's plenty of fighters that use bows, but none that make it the core of their moveset. The Mii Archer is a bit on the light side and fairly fast, preferring to create space and strike from afar, with a few escape options should they get caught. However, the vast majority of their moves use arrows in some form or another, leading to the Mii Archer's quiver mechanic. While I usually don't love ammo mechanics for moveset concepts, I've thought that it felt a little more natural for the Archer. The Archer's quiver can hold up to 20 arrows at a time, with a new arrow spawning something like every 1.5 to 3 seconds, whatever works out best. Unless you're really on the offensive, it's unlikely you'll run out of arrows, but it is a possibility, especially with some moves. When empty, moves that are supposed to fire arrows will only do minor physical damage from the slap of the bowstring. Most of your normals do not use arrows though, preferring kick combos, a shoulder dash attack, or physical strikes and spins of the bow. Your throws do begin to use arrows, generally following up the throw with a single shot, besides back throw, which instead shoots your enemy as the arrow. Your smash attacks are charge shot with a standard powerful arrow like other specials, triple shot firing 3 arrows up diagonally in front of you that fall after, and knee shot, a strong shot with a lot of hit stun and little knockback, great for keeping enemies in place. For specials, neutral B has rapid fire, continuously shooting mid damage arrows out until you stop or run out, bomb arrow, exploding on impact, and splinter arrow, shooting out one that breaks into a wide wave of shards covering a good amount of stage. Side B has sticky arrow, attaching to the target before exploding and leaving a slowing goo on the stage, poison arrow, acting like the white Pikmin until it's destroyed by the affected target, and drill arrow, carrying enemies along its path with continuous damage. Up B has roped arrow, acting like a simple grapple like Joker's, weighted arrow, firing a slow, heavy arrow that does tons of damage and brings you along for the ride, potentially straight down to your death, and Mii arrow, launching yourself upwards but losing your bow until you land. And down B has pitfall arrow, shooting straight at the ground and creating a pitfall trap, bounce arrow, firing an arrow at the ground that will bounce off of anything and anyone until it eventually breaks, and lightning rod arrow, shooting the arrow straight into the ground that will have a bolt of lightning strike it shortly after, essentially creating a Pikachu down B trap. And your final smash is spirit arrow, using all your energy in a single deadly shot like Link or Sheik. Once leaning fully into the archery concept, I do think this Mii would have a lot of potential and would be another simpler addition. In general, I'd love to see an archery themed fighter on the roster. Moving on, these next 2 Mii fighters were ones that came naturally while creating the originally planned 4 movesets. The concepts were floating around, and once I was able to attach them to a solid gimmick, everything came together. First up is the Mii Spy. Much like the Mii Ninja, the Spy doesn't necessarily represent one game or genre, but more so an overall aesthetic of fighter. However, I'd be lying if I didn't say this was heavily pulled from James Bond and classic spy movie gadgets. There's a little bit of Spy from TF2 thrown in there as well, but he was definitely more of an afterthought. First and foremost, the Spy is built around playing it cool and keeping your enemy guessing. You're not the heaviest fighter, but you have some moves that will deal a surprising amount of damage if you play your cards right. To lean into this, the Mii Spy has a simple but crucial gimmick: concealed. Essentially, any moves that involve charging will use the same animation, meaning your opponent won't know what you're about to throw at them. Your normals consist of more basic martial arts, such as a 1-2 punch jab, chop for F tilt, gut punch uppercut for up tilt, kick with a hidden knife in your shoe for down tilt, and a sliding dash. Your aerials keep things fairly similar, and you're definitely not meant to be an aerial fighter. Your grab strangles enemies with hitting garrote wire, squeezing for pummel, and generally using simple throws or small attached explosives, besides down throw, which acts like snakes. Smash attacks start to bring in some concealed weaponry with a deadly silenced pistol shot for F smash, spinning an umbrella with a concealed gun above you for up smash, which is basically like Mii Gunner's F smash turned upright with some weaker damage where the umbrella spins, and a sleep dart shot from your watch for down smash, which will put your enemy to sleep longer the more it's charged. For specials, neutral B has Golden Gun, an extremely strong kill shot from a golden pistol with moderate cooldown, obviously referencing GoldenEye, Drone, deploying a small flying drone that will take weak interrupting shots at enemies, and X-ray vision, scanning enemies in front of you. Once scanned, an indicator will appear above them, revealing what attack from you against them would deal a critical hit. This indicator goes away after a short time, or if you do more than 3 attacks without following the indicator. Side B has Sniper Rifle with a long startup and vicious cross-stage blast, Tracker, shooting a small tracker onto an enemy, causing them to receive a slightly increased amount of damage from you while active, and Proximity Mine, throwing it onto the ground where it will blow up if approached too closely by an enemy. Up B has Grapple, once again like Joker, and shooting from your watch, Jetpack, pretty much like Rob's Up B, and Suitcase Receiver, where you drop one suitcase in a location if you're choosing, and warp to it on your second use of Up B. Be careful though, as the first suitcase can be moved or destroyed. And down B has the most unique moves, with Sabotaged Item, calling in an inconspicuous item that drops in sometime after the move, working normally for you or blowing up an enemy hands, Decoy, spawning a CPU identical to you that stuns the enemy when struck and disappears, and Disguise. After a slow startup, you will fully transform into a random other fighter that is currently in the brawl. You will be a bit weaker than they normally would be, and drop the Disguise with Shield B. And your final smash is Mission Accomplished, setting a bomb on stage and helicoptering away before its massive blast. While definitely unlikely, the Mii Spy would present a ton of interesting and visually distinct new ways of fighting that would be a great representation of this trope. Similarly, this next Mii is also an overall homage to a trope. Leaving the gritty realism of the Spy behind, we move into the fantastic with the Mii Hero. Admittedly, this was a harder one to get started with, as I didn't want it to be too much of a boring variant of the brawler. some key changes had to be made to the hero's characteristics before I considered it a viable addition. For one, if you really want it, you could have comic book stylings appear out of thin air when the hero lands strong attacks, though that's a more unnecessary aesthetic touch. Maybe it could be tied to specific costumes. Also, while the hero still has strong ground moves like the brawler, they excel in aerial combat. On the whole, fighting against the hero should feel like they are very hard to kill. Taking this even further, the Mii Hero's special mechanic is called Energy. The hero starts with an energy meter at half full. Smashes, specials, and using your aerial hover deplete this energy, while normals and taking damage fill it. If it reaches its maximum, the hero will enter a 20-second hero mode, granting them enhanced strength and more powerful variants of their specials. This makes the hero somewhat of a comeback fighter, hanging on and fighting till the very end. Put all this together and your final result is a mix of hero stylings from both Eastern and Western media. To get into the moveset, normals are a fairly simple brawling fare. A 4-hit combo jab, small energy blast for F tilt like Ganondorf's jab, flip kick up tilt, sweep kick shooting a little bit of energy for down tilt, and a flying punch for dash attack. Aerials are naturally where we see that prowess in the sky. Taking a page from Sora's book, these moves will generally stall the hero in the air while they perform their combo. Nair is a 6-hit combo, fair and bear are directional energy dashes, up air is a rising uppercut, and dare is a falling diagonal kick to get you back down to earth. You grab enemies with telekinetic energy a slight distance away, pummeling with telekinetic fists. Most of your throws are simple from there, with some style in things like bear, pulling the enemy into a strong physical punch. F smash is an extremely strong super punch, up smash is a warp strike vanishing and appearing a jump's height above you with a kick, and down smash is elemental vortex with whirling wind, stone, and lightning around you as a multi-hit with a bursting finisher. For specials, neutral B has an energy blast like a Hadouken, laser sight blasting continuous lasers in front of you like a fire breath move, and sonic stun, a deafening clap that stuns enemies. Their hero mode variants are Ultra Blast, a larger energy ball carrying enemies along and dealing consistent damage before exploding, Ultra Beam, a throw-on like blast, and Sonic Shatter, a slower move that will put enemies in their shield break animation if it lands. Side B has Stretching Strike, aiming and launching an extended punch like Min-Min, Super Speed, a strong dash attack running farther the more you charge it, and Telekinetic Wave, a large damageless wave that sends opponents and projectiles flying back. In hero mode, they become Elastic Encounter, which stuns the enemy and immediately snaps you over to the enemy you hit, Break Speed with even stronger knockback and being basically instantaneous, and Telekinetic Tidal Wave, increasing the size and power of your push. Up B has Flight, steering a flying punch, Spider Swing, which will either try to tether to the ledge if below stage, or fly off the top of the screen and allow you to swing, releasing with a kick like Diddy Kong Side B, and Hero Landing, jumping high into the sky and slamming down with a punch to the ground. Hero mode changes these to Super Flight, flying much farther, Wrecking Ball, dealing damage while in your swinging state, and Seismic Landing with a larger area of effect for your landing punch. And down B has Force Field, a bubble shield that covers multiple people and acts like Pit's down B except absorbing energy instead of reflecting, Time Counter, freezing enemies who hit you in place to deal multiple attacks like Witch Time, and Metal Skin, turning you metal for a short time. These change into Hero Shield, adding an energy zap that counters enemies who attack your shield physically, Hero Time, making the effect last longer, and Diamond Skin, making you reflective as you move around. And lastly, your final smash is called Superhero, exceeding all limits of your energy and dashing from foe to foe, delivering deadly pre-made combos. The Mii Hero is for those who like the general feel of the brawler but want to play things a little riskier, with harder to control moves but big payoff for staying in the fight and knowing what to do and when to do it. Again, like the Mii Spy, I don't see this happening, but I think it'd be a great addition. Now we get into the original 4 Miis that started the concept of this video. I want to start with one that has not only been requested, but wound up being the perfect antithesis of the Mii Hero. While the Mii Hero clearly represents the good guys of the story, the Mii Monster represents pure evil and darkness. The inspirations for this fighter are varied, pulling from classic monsters and lore along with fictional killers embodied in things like Dead by Daylight. While the monster is another take on the brawler, they don't necessarily want to be in the middle of the fight the same way the hero does. Instead, increased mobility makes them harder to catch, but attacks with long end lag create a game of learning their weaknesses and waiting for openings. Also, I just want to note that the stage entrance is the base Mii transforming into their monster version, because I think that's fun. This is the ultimate spooky fighter, with moves that dip into the macabre and darker tactics like affecting enemy stats and perception. To emphasize this, the Mii Monster's gimmick is called Corruption. This could go by many names though, as it covers a lot of concepts. corruption, mutation, fear, whatever you want to think of it as. Enemies fighting you all have invisible meters, filled by the darkness that powers all of your attacks as you deal more and more consecutive blows. If you fail to keep up your attacks, the meter will start to drain down to 0 after a short delay. If you can keep them up though, for 20 to 30 seconds, the enemy will become corrupted, driving them mad. Enemies in this state will become weaker, are poisoned with small consistent damage, and will randomly either trip, have controls reversed, or become slower. While the hero plays to make themselves stronger, the monster plays to make their enemies buckle. Let's get into the moves, as this is one of the Miis I filled out a lot of. Jab is a triple claw slash, F tilt is a close range bite, up tilt is flying talon, which slashes above you and launches a purple shadow blade spinning and flying down in front of you, kind of referencing thrown hatchets, kind of referencing Kraid. Down tilt is eldritch burst, lashing out with low tentacle strikes in front of you, and dash is the leaping slash. Nair is circling spirits, having ghosts appear and spin around you, dealing damage like Mewtwo's Nair. Fair and Bear grow a pair of wings to attack with a forward lunge and stab respectively. Up air transforms you into a swarm of bats for a rising multi-hit, and Dare is a diving downward slash. Your grab is a tether with a hooked tentacle, reeling enemies into your claws to be pummeled by bites. Most throws are normal, besides down, which will crumple the enemy. F smash is poison claw with less damage up front but poisoning enemies. Up smash is howl at the moon with a strong howl above you, and down smash is curse breath with a strong initial blast followed by a small poison cloud like piranha plant. Our specials get into some pretty wacky stuff. Neutral B has Raise Dead, a slow move that deals 5% to yourself but spawns a CPU skeleton that will attack until destroyed with something like 10 to 15 damage. Vampire's Fang, a short lunging command grab followed by draining enemy health. And Haunting Omen, placing a shadow of yourself on the stage which you can teleport back to with an instant strike by tapping B again. Side B has Mummy Wrap, lashing out with a stream of bandages that trap the enemy in place. Minotaur's Charge, having you grow horns and dash forward like Wonder Wing. And Hypnosis, using your energy to make enemies in front of you fall asleep. Up B has Cloak, turning you intangible and highly mobile until using an attack. You can only use this once in the air. Plane Traversal, opening an initial portal and then another where you use it the second time, warping to the first. Enemies can use these but take damage. And Monstrous Wings, growing huge wings and launching yourself upwards. And down B has Eldritch Trap, drawing on the ground and causing tentacles to lash out and trap enemies who walk over it. Veil of Darkness, creating a dark aura around you where enemies cannot tell exactly where you are or what attack you're doing. And Shadow Walk, basically like Greninja's Side B. And your final smash is called Worst Nightmare, having you grow into a huge amalgamate beast in the background and striking the stage with deadly slashes like Giga Bowser. I've said in the past that horror games are particularly hard to capture on the Smash roster, but I think this would be a really great way to do so. Getting into the final 3 movesets, this next one is without a doubt the most complex of my Mii fighters. Sure, we may have gotten Steve representing Minecraft on the roster, but what if we could represent the complete creative potential of things like Game Builder Garage, Super Mario Maker, and Smash's Stage Builder? That's where the Mii Builder comes in. Fairly durable with decent strength, there are several important things you need to think of to understand how this fighter works. For one, this is a character built around setup and payoff. As such, the builder is very trappy, completely altering the way the game and stage work to their advantage. Along with that, some moves require you to kind of think of the builder as your cursor, your method of making these changes to the stage and your opponents. Throughout the entire moveset, you're more or less doing one of 2 things, spawning something or editing the attributes of something. On the spawning side, you can hold shield B for 3 seconds to delete everything you've made. But let me elaborate on that as we get into the moveset. Jab is rotate gear, with a gear icon spinning in front of you for a single hit. F tilt and up tilt are both moving rail, with 2 points connecting with a line acting as a 2-hit strike either straight forward or above you. Down tilt is button, having a button pop up on the floor in front of you and knock enemies upwards. And dash attack is boost pad, rushing you forward and temporarily placing a boost pad on the floor that anyone can use. Now moving into aerials, this is really where the spawning comes in. Nair spawns a large block under you, dealing damage. Fair and Bear both have you run in the respective directions, spawning a platform under you as you run. Up air is a literal ladder attack, spawning ladders as you climb. And Dare spawns a slope that you slide down. Fair, Bear, and Dare can chain into each other, creating more complex structures with a max of 3 pieces. Skipping grabs for now, F smash is advanced rail, similar to your tilts but having 4 points of contact, which can create a bent line in various directions. Up smash is bomb block, exploding either if it immediately strikes an enemy or later, and down smash is bumper, placing a smash bumper down in front of you that acts accordingly. So here's where the real complications begin. Essentially, your jab, tilts, and F smash can not only be used offensively, but when used on the stage pieces you spawn in, you will alter their status and course. By hitting a block or platform platform with a jab, the item will begin to rotate, doing so faster and faster the more it's done. By instead using F tilt, up tilt, or F smash, the item will begin following the path you have drawn. As for down tilt, using the button once will indicate the attached item, and using it again will place the button on the ground. Activating the button will have the object expand and deal damage, or in the case of the bomb block, explode. To master the Mii Builder, you have to fully utilize your tools not only to attack enemies, but to craft the stage to your liking. It's essentially Steve with skill ceiling cranked sky high. And to backtrack to your grabs and throws, your grab and pummel are actually just normal physical attacks. It's your throws where you really start to think of your Mii as the cursor, and the enemy as the object you're affecting. The more damage you do by pummeling, the more effect these throws will have. F-throw attaches a destroyed sensor to the enemy. If the enemy is killed within a short period of time, you get a small heal and damage buff. Up throw creates a reduced gravity field around you, lasting for a short time. Back throw uses the untracked camera effect, meaning that the stage's camera will not expand to accommodate for the enemy. And down throw uses random, inflicting the enemy with a random effect. Still with me? Alright, let's get into the specials. Neutral B has retry, rewinding time for you and the enemy if you are hit and allowing you to act first, wind area creating a large wind tunnel that stays unless used again, and bullseye creating an area on stage where all damage dealt is increased. Side B is all about spawning in mobs, whether that's spawn person, having a person nodon run around, punch enemies and use items, spawn car, having a car drive around and ram enemies, or spawn UFO, having one fly around and pepper enemies with weak lasers. Up B primarily pulls from stage builders assets, using a warp zone spawning an initial point A and a point B where you warp from, cannon aiming a cannon that you fire out of with up to 2 staying on stage at a time, and spring floor placing a large platform that acts as a spring jump. And down B is all about changing textures, with lava floor burning enemies when placed and acting accordingly afterwards, ice floor freezing enemies when placed and then staying as a slidey surface, and sand floor burying enemies when placed and then staying to slow movement. And for final smash is the simple and brutal delete, trapping enemies in place and having the builder move them to a trash can, instantly destroying that stock. Like I said, the Mii Builder is by far the most complex character here. I just really like the idea of a character who fully changes how the game is played based on the creativity of the user. How would you balance this character at all? I don't know, but this is the last time I'm talking about these Miis, so oh well, that's not my job, you have no power over me. Anyway, let's simplify things a little bit with these final two Miis. The first of these is a concept I've seen float around a decent bit, and pays tribute to some of Nintendo's biggest casual games. Representing the likes of the Wii Play series and Mario Party, the Mii Partier attempts to embody the spirit of casual party games. Sure, this is partially done through pulling from minigames for their moveset. More importantly though, this is done through a combination of causing chaos and momentarily forcing other players to play by their rules. This is very much a silly character with a lot of specific move usage that may or may not come up in the typical battle. To ease into things, for normals we have a table tennis serve for a jab with the paddle, a 4-part combo for F-tilt called puzzle pieces, having pieces appear in front of the Mii as they solve it to reveal the face of a random Mii on the console, balloons as up tilt, releasing 3 balloons floating above you for weak damage, mostly for disruption, whack-a-mole hammer for down tilt, a quick hammer strike like Isabelle that does extra damage to buried opponents, and mushroom boost for dash, rushing forward with speed similar to using a mushroom in Mario Party. All aerials would be pulled from the pose Mii stances, with this is nair, this is fair, this is up air, this is bear, and this cannonball as dare plummeting downward. Your grab traps enemies in a dice block, rolling to pummel. Forward and back throws roll the dice, up throw launches the dice upward into a fireworks explosion, and down throw buries the opponent. For smash attacks, F smash is pull Q, a longer range strike that can knock enemies into one another like Deity's Exhaled Star. Up smash is dual cannons, launching cannonballs to either side simultaneously at a diagonal. And down smash is laser hockey paddles, with 2 pushing to either side sending enemies horizontally. Now for specials, Neutral B has 2 variations of dice. Both of them have you throw a dice dealing weak physical damage until it lands on a number. For the attack dice, 1 will deal damage to you, 2 will freeze enemies close by, 3 spawns a tornado sending enemies up like Hyrule Castle, 4 spawns a poison cloud, 5 warps nearby enemies like Abra, and 6 is a huge explosion. Meanwhile, the effect dice will weaken you with a 1, grant you additional speed with 2, additional strength with 3, heal you with 4, make you giant with 5, and make you invincible with 6. If the dice are too much for you, you could alternatively throw out another party game staple, tanks. You'll drop 2 small tanks onto the stage that move around and shoot their cannons at random times. Side B has Charge, having you burst forward on a cow before bucking with additional taps of the button. Slot Car, similar to Pac-Man's Side B, but having you fly off and need to evacuate at the end unless the circuit is closed. And Shooting Range, a quick blast after locking onto enemies that can be used against multiple targets by holding the attack. Up B has Ice Cream Tower, lifting you up high and sending the tower crashing down to one side as you jump off. Umbrella, charging forward then gently drifting down. And Jump Park. On the ground, this spawns a bouncy patch of floor that stays for a short time. In the air, it spawns and attaches you to a wheel that you let go of by tapping a button as it flings you that direction, also staying for a short period of time and usable by others. And down B has Find Mii Crowd, spawning a crowd of similar looking Miis that run around and disappear after a few seconds. Follow Me, spawning an AoE circle that notes your next move and forces enemies within to comply at the count of 3 or suffer a strong attack. And Fire Jump Rope, spawning a string of fireballs tied together that you spin by tapping B. Enemies can play along and jump through this, and you also have some space between you and the move, leaving you vulnerable. And the final smash is called Dance Party, having the Mii take the center of the stage and dance to a beat, sending out waves of damage like DK's old final smash if you tap in time, as well as image projections of your dance moves for additional damage. The Mii Partier is fairly straightforward, but could be a lot of fun on the roster, especially in the hands of casual players. Party games are another genre that is a little hard to easily represent on the roster, and considering so many of them use player avatars, I think this would be a great alternative to trying to find a specific rep. And finally, for our last Mii Fighter, we have the Mii Mech. Or is it technically the Mii Pilot? Well, either way, you get the idea. This Mii is vastly different than any other, piloting a large mech in reference to the mech fighting genre, particularly things like Daemon X Machina. With a mix of small damage building moves and extremely strong punishers, the Mii Mech is about timing, movement, and preserving your mech. With a short hover, they're also basically a heavy that's good in the air. For the Mii Mech, there are 2 main gimmicks at play. The first is naturally the mech itself. The mech will spawn at full health, acting as armor for the Mii Pilot inside and having its own individual health. The mech provides tough guy armor through most attacks until 30%. While using the mech, the pilot will only take half the damage being taken by the mech. After receiving 80% damage, the mech will be destroyed, leaving the pilot on their own to survive until the mech can be called in again after about 45 seconds to a minute. While on their own, the pilot plays kind of like a slower, weaker Zero Suit Samus. Neutral B is a blaster shot, side B is a close range stun, up B is a quick boost with rocket boots, and down B will call the mech. Keep in mind, healing items only affect the pilot even while inside the mech, but some specials will also only heal the mech, so it's possible to get out of sync. The other gimmick is a little more simple, called Lock-On. A core staple of mech fighting is strafing and moving around a set target. While in a 1v1, you will always face the enemy and your attacks slightly home towards them, though they can be outrun. In larger fights, up taunt will switch your target. With that established, let's get into the moves, as they're actually much simpler than the gimmick would let on. It's almost a variation of Min Min and Mega Man in the way you move around and consistently throw out attacks. Jab, F-tilt, Nair, and Fair are all Gatling fire, a stream of weak shots with a brief pause to reload every 4 to 5 seconds. In terms of anything like this with a cooldown, I think icons near your portrait would be good. Up tilt and up air are Salvo, firing a group of small missiles from your back pods that deal more damage but have a longer cooldown. Down tilt is Propulsive Punch, an explosive strike like Samus's down tilt. Dash is Boost, a quick rush forward powered by your back thrusters. Bear is Afterburner, using those thrusters to blast enemies and push you forward. And Dare is Crashdown, descending quickly and landing with a 2-foot stomp. Grab and throws are mostly normal once again, except for up throw, which lifts enemies up and slams them down. F smash is Charge Punch, a rocket-powered deadly fist. Up smash is Umbrella Barrage, firing missiles that explode in close proximity directly above you. And down smash is Earthquake Stomp, with a huge forward stomp with surprising range. And for our last set of specials, Neutral B has Tri-Blaster with 3 stronger laser shots in quick succession, Railgun pausing with a thin line to aim before a huge throw-on like blast, and Flamethrower, short range and great for damage but harder to follow with. Side B has Mines quickly thrown out and detonating either on immediate impact or landing and being touched, Energy Blade appearing from the arm and crumpling enemies, and Acid Bomb, launching a tank of acid that either burns enemies for a short time when hit or leaving acid on the floor. Up B has Thrusters like Rob, Rush, a fox-like quick dash in a given direction inspired by Custom Robo, and Self-Destruct, launching the pilot out before the mech explodes in a huge burst of flame. And down B has Shield, deploying an energy shield from the arm that acts like Pits down B, Repair Kit, slowly healing the mech for a max of 5 seconds before needing to charge, and System Redirect. By holding down B, similar to the Minato arts, you could either go right for more damage given and taken, left for less damage given and taken, or up to return to default. Attack mode and defense mode will both only last a maximum of 15 to 20 seconds. movements. And the final smash is called Overload Beam, having the mech fly to the top of the screen and send down a huge laser blast like Zero Suit Samus. The biggest issue with a mech fighter in Smash is the scale, but with the Mii Mech I think it's actually pretty plausible, only being a little bigger than Ridley. It's probably middling in terms of probability compared to all these Miis, but I think it would be a great addition to the roster. And that concludes my final takes on what new Mii fighters could be like in Smash. Let me know what you thought of these, which ones are your favorites, or what else you might want to see the Miis do in the future of Smash. I still have a couple Smash moveset things cooking that will come out between this year and next, but I'm definitely starting to wind down in terms of ideas, and want to focus on broader creative pursuits like my music, or longer form game discussions like my Metroid Prime 4 video. So stay tuned for that, but also much more like more movesets and my first full-length album coming this year. Be sure to like and subscribe, and as always, thanks for watching.